hall, her feet twisting and fighting behind her, trying to slow his efforts. She hadn't lost her fight. But if she survived the week in this pit, she would. I raised my hand toward them, as if by that one action alone I could protect her and stop what was about to happen. The large cell door shut with a thud, and I waited to hear whether the lock turned. It did. I counted the steps as Scarlett dragged Cammy up the stairs through another door, mentally tracing the intricate path they would take, until they reached a huge iron door that, once opened, would let out a smell of iron, sulfur, and death. I knew from experience that a table waited behind that door with cold iron shackles, and as well as... I shivered at the mental picture that formed of the nameless machine they used to experiment on us. When the sound of the door at the top of the stairs closed, the pain in my chest exploded because I was holding my breath. I cried in relief that I wasn't going to be tortured and experimented on again, that I survived one more day. I dropped my head to the floor and let the grief pour out of my body in loud, aching sobs, as I realized in shame that I was happy he chose Cammy. I woke to the familiar sound of a tin plate being shoved through the food slot in the bottom of the door and bolted upright in fear and anticipation. Hungrily, I snatched the small life-saving plate of food and dragged it far from the door to where Cammy slept. But where Cammy usually laid curled up in slumber, there only remained a tattered blanket and straw. I hung my head in shame. She wasn't strong enough to survive the experiments. Few were. I was one of the lucky ones, if you considered being tortured and beaten on a regular basis and survive being lucky. With an air of renewed determination, I peeked through the slot in the door and saw boots covered by the blood-red robes of one of the Septori. He slowly made his way past the cells, delivering the morning's offerings of food to the other prisoners. I hunched by the slot, waiting for him to pass my way. When he came within reach, I snaked my hand out and grabbed the hem of his robe. He stumbled to a halt. Gathering my voice, I croaked out, "Cammy! What did you do with Cammy?" He sneered at me and tried to dislodge my hand from his robe. My increasing courage only added volume to my voice. "What did you do with her? If you hurt her, I'll—"
"You'll what?"
he interrupted.
"You haven't succeeded so far in protecting any of the others, so why now?"
He kicked my hand away from his ankle and stepped on my wrist, pinning it to the floor before I could yank it under the flap. He leaned down, putting pressure on my injured wrist as I gritted my teeth and sucked in my breath against the pain. He peered at me under the flap, and I could see the bottom half of his face and the crooked teeth that lined his sneering mouth. This one was known as Crow. Knowing his name somehow made him seem less terrifying.
"Don't worry about your friend."
Crow spoke slowly, cruelly.
"She has outlived her usefulness to the Raven. He was extremely disappointed in her results. She lacked... what did he say? Oh yes, the determination to live. Unlike you. The Raven was displeased that you weren't able to help him last night."
Cocking his head to the side like a bird, he went on.
"He was quite angry and unnecessarily took it out on the girl. So in fact what happened to her is your fault."
His eyes lit up with joy in sharing the news. He used his dirty fingernail to dig at one of my barely healed wounds until blood began to pool. I could see the red raised skin of the brand that marked him for a member of the Septori.